Good evening. Welcome. This is the Finance Committee meeting of October 6th. It is 6:30 and we're in room 27 of the Wareham Town Hall. We're recording live. And may I ask the clerk to call the roll, please?
Yes, far right is distinguished member Tom Worthen. Jody Smith.
Extinguished, did you say?
Distinguished. Chairman
Not quite
Bernie
yet, not
Pigeon,
quite yet.
myself, Jerry Stefanski, Stuart Novick, and Matt Rose.
Let me move back a little. Thank you. We have a quorum. And with Finance Committee matters, which is first on our agenda, everybody has a copy of the warrant. If it has my name in the upper right-hand corner, it is the one that was delivered to me. You also have a copy of the chart of all the articles and the votes that were taken. I just got it around 4 or 5 this afternoon, which includes the votes the selectmen took last night on the articles for their recommendation. Any questions so far? Concerns? No? Okay, we'll move on. The first is Article 1. Now, I haven't heard from the Capital Plan Committee. However, very specifically, the schools have asked for material, and I've invited them there this evening. Good evening, Joyce and Kim. And what they're looking for is the fire suppression replacement for the high school in $295,000. 4 buses for a total of $400,000, and a fire door replacements, I believe that must be plural, for $50,000. So may I ask either Joyce or Kim to present the underlying reasons for this, please? Get some by your nice comfortable chairs now. Did you get them? By the way, did you buy them for your staff also, the new ones?
No, unfortunately not, but we might come over here some night and get them.
You're on the record, Kim, now.
Okay. Thank you very much. Our fire suppression system at the high school is actually on the very last leg. We're having trouble finding parts. We've piecemealed it together. It's original to the building. We've been wanting to do this for several years. Up until now, the fire department has not ordered us to do that. We feel like it's in the very near future where it will fail, and we will not have any option but to replace it. It's a lengthy process, really, to replace the system, and it would take approximately several months to do so. So we would plan to do it beginning in the summer, so we would be ready for the school year, next school year. If you have any questions about the fire suppression system, I could answer them, and if not, I can get you the answer.
Kim, you had mentioned that the fire department has been evaluating it, and have they made any statements as yet, other than evaluating it and to tell you what condition it is currently in?
Yes, it's in very poor condition, and the fire department would substantiate that. And again, we have, the existing is a simplex. It's original to the building. We're having problems getting replacement parts. It's obsolete, and the life expectancy is fast approaching the end of its life expectancy.
But they have warned you verbally as to its condition. They have not made a statement as yet.
That's true. They've warned us verbally, and they've worked with us.
It's a sprinkler system, is that what it is?
Yes, what it does is it's doors. So when a fire alarm goes off, it will shut the doors.
Okay.
It's a transponder, so it will notify the fire department. It's voice activated. For evacuation, sprinkler system, etc.
not just a system that goes over like grills and fryer lanes where all the powder comes blasting out, so it's expanded a lot further than that.
Yes, yes.
So the parts that they replace, are they not gonna do the sprinkler parts, or they?
What we would do is we would replace the whole system, and it also, we have to install a new radio box, and that's per the fire department. It's the whole system.
So, yeah, all parts of it, I mean, a sprinkler system will last for a long time, it gets tested annually and or thereabouts. Is it,
It's the electronics,
it's the controls, it sounds like, and it's also the emergency exit.
correct, circuits, et cetera.
Not the piping in
No,
the
no, no,
nozzles
not
or
the
whatever.
piping.
It's the
No.
controls for that system.
Correct.
That's usually the big red panel that's on the,
Right.
But it's also a major upgrade.
It is.
Right. It's not like just replacing an old panel that's no good. It's a major
Correct.
upgrade with more modern, sophisticated
Mhm.
attachments.
Yes.
Have we got an estimate from one company or multiple companies to do the job?
We've received an estimate from one company, and the last estimate was $245,900. That was in February of last year. This company that gave us the estimate is also the company that installed the one in the new building, so they were very kind and came over at the same time and gave us an estimate.
that estimate doesn't preclude the fact you're gonna have to go out for the RFP process.
That's
anyway.
correct. Right.
Dominic?
You know, the state gives back money, so much for school repairs. Is this allowable under that?
No,
No.
it's not.
I forget what that's actually called.
MSBA,
Yes.
yes, no,
It's not eligible for that?
no.
Okay, thank you.
But in the meantime, assuming parts of it don't work, can you run drills and stuff like that so that you've got plan B?
Yes,
Going on right now?
we can, and we have, and, we have it inspected regularly, we keep it maintained, and as long as it's operational, we're still holding on, and that's one reason why we've worked to maintain it as we have, just because we know if it goes down, we have serious issues.
You have a private company come in every year and inspect it?
Yes, yeah,
They do all the fire extinguishers and go through that's yearly, correct?
yes, it is.
Any other questions regarding
Yeah,
that?
what do they say about the system? I know what the fire department's saying, what are their
Antiquated, obsolete,
junk?
yeah, well, they didn't write junk, but
I
antiquated,
know where you were going,
yes.
it's junk.
Sounds like it's a very critical issue, too.
It
Well,
is.
I mean, you can't play, you're playing with kids' lives.
Indeed.
I'm sorry, how do you put a price on that? I
Yeah,
don't
you
know.
can't, you
In
can't.
my opinion. I mean, I know it sounds like a lot of money. Think about if that old system fails and we turn something down like this. You wanna sleep at night?
In the
I'm
codes,
I'm sorry, that's not how I feel.
Yeah.
and the codes change on that all the time too. I mean, where you might have this many nozzles in this area, they might require
Oh, yeah.
something different,
I didn't
so
hear
I
what
mean,
you said.
like you said, when you're talking an upgrade, there's a lot of safety factors that kind of get built into an upgrade out of necessity. The law, call it whatever you want, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, well, okay, we'll move on to the 4 buses. We just, you bought a used bus recently, didn't you, with your FY21 funds?
We did. We have right now 2 spare buses, and the spare buses are also the ones that help us go out for athletics. If we have a bus that goes down, then we're pulling one of the buses from our athletics, and we've had in the short time that we've been in school, we've really had some issues in being able to get all our students out at sports, extracurricular, because we don't have transportation. There was one Friday that we had to move games here because we had no transportation to send them to the scheduled site. And if we would have 3 buses go down, we have serious issues because we have nothing in the backup.
Now, I was asking you earlier, when you came in about these buses, and you told me other information.
Right.
So please, would you to share that with the
Sure.
committee?
We've had so many students wanting transportation this year. We have a waiting list. We still have a waiting list, and we've not been able to transport some students to school. And we do have some students that have not been in attendance this year because we have no transportation. And they have no transportation to get to school. We're also struggling with out-of-district transportation. During the COVID pandemic, there were a number of companies that went out of business that used to service students moving out of district, and they're no longer transporting students. So we have one student that we've not been able to get to school yet that's going out of district because we have no way to transport, and there are no available companies that can transport. We're to the point of where desperation would be one of the words I might use. We're bringing a company in from Boston to move a student to an out-of-district placement, and the cost is $600 a day. So we are desperately looking for vehicles, buses to move our students to and from school.
Comment,
I
gentlemen?
mean, I'll volunteer
For that money?
service, I mean,
$600 a day for one student?
no,
Yes,
I'm not talking about $600, I'm just talking about getting the kid to school.
yeah, and we're mandated to bring them, you know.
Are you able to use individuals, let's say Tom volunteers with his vehicle, liabilities?
You're not saying anything about me.
No, not at all. In fact, I think you'd be a fine driver, but you have to have certain license to do that. Yes. Now, if you have that license, we'd be happy to employ you.
Son of a gun.
On the same level that Jeff is employed, he volunteers.
I got kind of just to educate me questions. I've never seen a used bus lot anywhere around. Where do you go about finding used buses, and what's the warranty that come on them and things like that? I mean,
Oh, well, it's like buying a used car, there's no warranty.
okay?
And the way we find used buses, we'll call other sites that we know own their buses, and if they're rolling over buses and have some for sale, then we send people out to look at them, a mechanic, a driver, because we don't want to buy something that's a lemon, and that's how we would find a used bus. You can find them on eBay, you can find them on various for sale sites. We've not found any on eBay. We have found them by calling other places and saying, First Student, are you selling any buses? And they might say no, but I think so-and-so is, so it's kind of the snowball effect.
Just, what's a new bus go for? About
About $90,000, $100,000.
That's what seatbelts.
How does that compare with how many buses we had last year and the coverage we had last year?
Well, you know, we weren't transporting a lot of students last year because of the hybrid
Well,
model.
2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah, we have about the same number of buses. For some reason, we didn't have as many students riding the bus several years ago as what we've had. We've always had a little bit of delay at the beginning of the year just trying to get students on buses. We've asked them to enroll, and Sometimes their parent or guardian doesn't enroll in a timely fashion, so there's a little bit of a lag. We've never had we've never experienced this length of a issue in getting kids on the bus.
So the head count hasn't gone up of users?
The head count has gone up with users, with students wanting
How
rides.
much has that gone up?
Significantly, probably, I'm guessing, but I would say 100, 150 kids wanting to ride buses.
It was 100 more than 2 years ago that were on,
Yeah,
signing up for bus rides.
right, and
So
what
that's
we,
about 5%?
yeah, probably wanting to ride the bus. What we also experienced this year, toward the end of the summer, and right as we started school, we had a number of students coming to enroll. We've had a number of DCF students being enrolled in our district, which just kind of skyrocketed our bus numbers.
Now, I heard one of the meetings you were having a problem with kids signing up for the buses, then just not using them. Is that still an issue? Have you kind of weeded through that?
Yeah, that's something that we're working through. We've had drivers right now looking at the number of students who, our parents sign them up. We've given the students a seat, and now we're going back and saying, if you're not gonna ride, you need to tell us because we have other students that need the ride, and we're right in the midst of that. We're beginning, we have sports going on now. We have some after-school activities going on. As long as that's going on, we really do have a decrease at the end of the school day with students riding. On Fridays, when we don't have activities, we see a number go up of student ridership. And then after sports finish, we see our numbers go up. So those are two kind of bubbles that we're watching. You might see a bus go by and it might look like there's plenty of seats. That could be true, but those seats are taken with students that are in activities, and we're obligated to keep a seat open if they've reserved it.
Now you have problems, if you had 4 more buses, could you put 4 more drivers in the seats?
Right now, I would have 3 drivers, and if you are aware, the school committee voted to raise driver pay, and for us, that's been very helpful. We've brought in some drivers from other school districts and other companies, and so we're ready to go. We just need buses.
Now, you're not charging for buses this year. Again, the school committee decided not to, chose not to. That would have an impact, of course, if you started charging for your usage.
It does in a way, but not really, because the majority are free and reduced, or free. And so
Yes.
when we were charging for sports and transportation, we ended up with about 24% of our student body who paid for sports, who paid for transportation, and the remainder did not.
Dominic, you have a question?
I do. Approximate cost, I know it's hard to say because each bus is different. Have you bought used buses before? You say a new one's 100,000. What have you bought used buses for before?
Well, we've been able to purchase a used bus for 5,000, but
No, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously you wanna get something better than
Yeah.
that, that's my opinion.
They're-
I mean,
right.
half, even if you spend
Got new
40,
pedals.
50,000,
Yeah, maybe, but they're very, very difficult to find.
the good ones,
A good used bus is extremely hard to find,
I believe it.
yeah. Nobody wants to give them up, and I understand. We've looked at leasing buses, and then we would roll over every 2 years. It's just, half a dozen of one and a dozen of the other,
Exactly, I agree with that.
yeah.
I know you had even gone out, this was several years ago now, to just out-contract the entire transportation. And that wasn't cost-effective, if I recall.
Right. It was not. I think it was going to be at least $1 million more than what we're spending. And if you've heard about the governor's program where they brought in reserves to drive,
Yeah, I saw that.
right, well, that's with 7D drivers, that's like a van driver. Even if we don't have a van, if we did, that we could have a driver come, we could possibly access that program, but we have no vehicles to assign to a 7D driver.
Questions, Jerry?
Kim, is this, the 740,000, is that going to come out of free cash?
That's a question for Derek.
Okay, that's because the follow-up was to just check with Derek to see if we have the free cash, or you're just throwing that out there and you're saying, Derek,
Yeah.
here's my, okay.
Desperately.
The Capital Outlay Committee hasn't met yet. Jim's here this evening, as a matter of fact. They're going to meet next week to make their decision, and I'll have a few words to say to them while they're here too, on that regard. The next one, your fire door replacement.
Yes. The fire doors are original to the building, and they need replacement along with the outside, the metal doors. So it's about $5,000 a door. I think there's 55 doors total. So we're asking for $25,000 for the next several years so we can make replacement over a time period.
These aren't the doors the mice were getting under, are they?
We fixed those.
Any other questions?
I do.
Yes.
Looking at some of these things, and it's maintenance that, obviously, I've always said since I've lived in Wareham that the maintenance on the buildings leave a lot to be desired. But it's every town, that's the first thing that gets cut, where it came from.
This is a guy that's seeing the doctor 3 times this week.
Yeah, that's the truth. But, is there any money in your budget at all? I got a follow-up question to that. I mean, we're a quarter away through the year. And I'm gonna tell you, I looked at this is off your website, there's 42 positions here that were budgeted starting July 1st. What's gonna happen with all that money? I looked at all the in-house, the teachers that might be a consultant or whatever with different choirs and whatever, they get stipends. I mean, there's a whole bunch of those on there. To me, there's a lot of money sitting around somewhere. That's my question. I'm not saying you could buy all the buses out of it, I can't tell you, I can't put the money to start on, but $50,000 doors, seems like you might be able to squeeze something out of someplace. I mean, there's a lot of jobs.
Well,
If they were budgeted July 1st, or a quarter of the year through,
sure. Part of those jobs are from the ESSER grants that were required to post, required to have, if we accept the ESSER money, which we are accepting the ESSER money. We've also hired HVAC and plumber, which have been busy nonstop. In fact, we've had things repaired that have been in non-repair for 20, 25 years because of the investment in bringing in in-house people to make those repairs. So we feel like we're managing our personnel and our budget in a very fiscally responsible manner. The extracurricular, it's about $75,000 a year for that, and that's contractual.
right, well, that's what I said,
Yeah.
those stipends that go along.
Yeah. And that's part of the educational process.
This grant money, that's a grant money, these positions, is that something that you have to maintain them once the grant money runs out?
Unfortunately, no, but we're trying to be wise in how we use that money, that we will be able to maintain positions when that money runs out. And that money is good for 4 years.
I can't think of the word I'm looking for, is it the same amount every year, or do they reduce it by 25%, or?
Yeah, no, they just gave us one lump sum, and then it's ours to manage for the next 4 years.
I've seen some grants that they, they kind of reduce over a number of years and then the town owns it.
Yeah, I mean, we also know that we have some bubbles coming in our staffing, that we should see some retirements in the next couple of years. So that will be a savings in personnel. So, there are a number of factors that we're trying to account for as we make decisions on spending. But I will tell you, at this point, our buildings are in the best condition that they've been in many, many years.
Yeah. That's such a big deal, maintaining buildings. It's such a big expense when you have to do that major project. I mean,
It is. And, part of our task right now is catching up. Because we feel that once we've caught up with the repairs that we've not addressed for the number of years, then we'll be to a point where we'll be not having to look at $100,000 to replace doors, or X number of dollars for the HVAC systems, or, I just signed a thing yesterday for drains. I like $5,000 for the piping and things like that. We'll be to that point where we're in proactive instead of reactive.
Are kids not getting to school right now because of the buses?
Yes, I do have some
We
kids.
gotta solve that problem like tomorrow.
I know. We've reached out to area transport companies. We've reached out to other districts. Everybody's in the same situation, as trying to find drivers. We have drivers, we don't have vehicles.
Do you need a special bus to transport these individuals, or can just any transportation satisfy the objective of getting to school?
Well, reasonably, a van, it would have to have markings, of course, but right now, I need a bus. And I
Gatra
need
can't bail you out, or?
No, I need a van too.
Can you, thinking of a volunteer or something that might live in the neighborhood whose child comes to school? None?
Yeah, no, they have to have a certain license. We do have some parents with out-of-district students that have been willing to transport their students. We pay mileage. That's with special education. We don't have that luxury with regular education to offer a stipend. And even if we could, some of our folks don't have vehicles.
We use Uber?
If some parents have Ubered from a school district point, I would not take that liability.
The unfortunate thing is, when they wrote the legislation, everything you touch becomes your liability. Even if you make arrangements for a neighbor who's coming anyway to pick that child up, if you put your finger in, you're liable. The school will be liable.
And I just can't do that.
Dominic?
I think, I'm not sure, but I'll get back to you. I think that Upper Tech was gonna put a bus up to auction.
Oh.
Yeah, one of those, 12-seat or 14-seat vans. I'll ask Roger to get back to you. Also, they're out of district buses, can't help you, they don't go by. Have you tried to reach out like that?
Yeah, we have. We do share with some districts, like I know, I believe that we share with Bourne, transportation for a student, and vice versa. But we just don't have some going in the right direction.
Because, Upper Tech has Wareham students, and obviously their buses, around that area. I didn't know if that's something. I'll bring that up too.
Yeah, maybe he would drop some of our kids off for us.
That's what I mean. If they're going by a certain area, to pick up, whatever, I don't know. I'll ask him to look into it. Thanks.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
No problem.
Any other questions, gentlemen? No? Thank you very much, Kim.
Thank you, I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Now, Kim's request would be covered on Article 1, and the capital planning will not be meeting until next week to make a final decision. I took advantage of asking Kim because of the detail of her issue, and we are in a time crunch, because come next Wednesday, we have to be done and go to print. Because we're required to,
Kids are going to school tomorrow.
I understand that.
Who should be, who can't.
Well, I understand that, that's their problem. Our problem is getting our report to where we're going.
It's everybody's problem.
I don't disagree with you, Tom. But, I have Jim here in a kind of uncomfortable situation, because he is the chair of the capital planning, and I was hoping that his committee had met and been able to make some decisions, but apparently had not, based on what Derek has told me. Need one on wheels.
Yeah, I can slide right over backwards.
Just fall down, get a little.
Yeah. Listen,
The latest has not been voted on yet.
Oh, thank you.
right, Dave just gave it to you. That's the same one that I've got. The one you've got in front of you, and I think Dave will back me up on this, I'm pretty sure that's gonna be approved and voted on at our next meeting, which is next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday,
Yeah,
before 6 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, outstanding.
So by 1:15, we'll probably have an answer, maybe 1:30. Okay, we just pretty much finalized this today, so unless something comes out of the woodwork between this minute and Wednesday, I think it's gonna be pretty well fait accompli here.
Yeah, and I apologize for trying to push you and pressure you. I understand, you're really concerned about it, I understand. But we have a charter, says we have to have our report in hand out, published by the Monday before town meeting, which comes up 2 weeks from yesterday, 2 weeks from this previous Monday. And, I mean, we're only a bunch of guys and doing scribbling errors, trying to write it in longhand and all.
Really,
Yeah, really tedious.
I understand that. You still got the quill pen?
One of the things that you should understand is that the capital planning committee will look at it and develop a plan for the next 5 years.
Hmm.
And that's what you have in front of you, and a copy of the draft has gone to every member here. Just tonight, I'm sorry, it was probably after you left from home. However, the amount of money that's available varies every year. And Derek will go through this and decide where he's going to spend the money. He'll identify what money he does have available, and then he'll pick and choose from the list that the committee has put together.
The bottom line is, we do not, Town of Wareham does not have a capital budget. So capital expenses that get funded have been traditionally out of free cash, which is,
One of the things you kind of left out, you could have some kind of disaster. They thought you were gonna do A, B, and C, then all of a sudden you gotta put a roof on
Well,
town hall building.
this is why,
You know, all of a sudden it
you've gotta
Yes.
look at the capital plan as a fungible unit. It's gonna change.
Right,
And as to what I'm saying right now is, I mean, you can say, accept that plan the way it sits right now, but by Wednesday it could change.
right.
You know, I don't know, so, I think from the meeting requirements and deadline standpoint and the rest of it, you know, I would suggest at the moment, you probably take this capital plan, and as soon as we have voted on it, if it remains the same, I'll just call you and tell you it's a go.
Indeed, what it'll give us an opportunity to
That would
do is to write something up,
Yeah,
and then based on your what your committee decides to do, and we will become aware of next Wednesday, it will take us that less time to do it. I appreciate that.
because I mean, that's just the only way I can see to expedite the situation at the
It
moment.
always happens because DOR doesn't certify free cash until almost the last minute from our point of view. And so you're trying to make up your mind, because we have about between 4 to 4.5 mil by projection. We haven't got it certified yet. And so that gives us an opportunity.
Right.
And unfortunately, as you're gonna be going and making your commitments, and I don't think you'll have a commitment from DOR, but the fact that we do, I just wanted to say this, use free cash is at DOR's recommendation. They do not advise using free cash for any operational purposes.
So,
Yes, Don?
Dave, what, the amount that capital planning estimates to spend this year is what number? Total. I don't care what you're using it for. What is that number that you guys
The
are trying
bottom
to
line-
spend?
I'm looking at it right now, is 13,850,000
For this year only?
for this year only.
We're a little short, aren't we?
And it says 4.5 in this. They have,
Right.
Yeah, and he's not gonna spend the
So
whole
they're a
thing,
little
he's not
short.
gonna spend a quarter, you know, you're looking at maybe a million, that's a
Maybe.
most from free cash, he's not gonna,
Not gonna spend,
he's not gonna spend a quarter of it,
That's
if you're
correct.
lucky.
Now, what's gonna happen is the capital planning committee will make a recommendation to
No,
Derek.
no, I understand that, but I just wanted to know the number.
And it's-
13 million, so there's a lot of recommendations. The school's looking for 700,000, and that might be all that Derek's gonna give up, you know? He's not gonna give up more than a quarter of what we have in free cash. And that's a high end.
Right.
So you look at 13 million, there's an awful lot of extras that's gonna fall in that category, right, Tommy?
Unless you're willing to pony up, man.
But you know,
I might have 20 bucks too.
Now, the only one
but you know,
not,
it's been that way every year.
No, I know that, I'm just
Unfortunately,
making a
you're right.
statement, that's all.
It's-
the only
it's
one
true.
not in that figure that Dave might have mentioned is what comes out of your water pollution account. Because most of the appropriations for capital
Oh.
comes out of your accounts of those.
Okay. So,
Exactly.
any idea what the number might be without water pollution, Dave? Rough guess, you don't have to be close.
Give it to him,
I
so-
mean,
I
is
don't
half of it water
The
pollution?
chairman's right there.
probably more than
Give me a
half.
second, you can take, about 9.5 million out for water pollution.
Okay, so now you're only at 4 million.
Right, and then there,
25% of the things might get done, and water pollution has their own capital money.
Right.
Yeah, okay, all right,
And
that makes a little better sense.
right, and then there are other,
Oh, no, wait a minute, if it makes sense, then it's probably wrong.
Makes sense to me,
Oh, okay.
and that's hard to do anyway.
Always have to remember we're
I have a
dealing with
small
government.
brain.
right. And then there's DNR, which uses funds that it gets from moorings and
Right,
boat fees and so on. So some of those are also included in the list.
okay.
Right,
There are also some grants that have been applied for. A lot of departments have applied for grants, not necessarily received them yet. So
But they all show
they
up
show,
in your
they all
list.
show up as part of the capital plan.
Okay,
because the capital plan really is not to identify the funding, it's only to identify the liabilities that the town potentially has.
you know, you don't have to sugarcoat it, it's a friggin' wish list, that's
It's a
all
wish
it is.
It
It's
is,
a wish list.
of course it is.
Let's be honest.
Santa Claus is coming,
It's not a wish list.
Santa Claus is
No,
coming.
the capital plan, if you go back, when this was put back together again around 2008, it's actually part of the Mass General law and stuff. Capital plan is to basically go through and to put down over a 5-year plan, what you're gonna need each year. And the dollar amounts, I think the first time I did it, we had $93 million over 5 years that we needed to do. That doesn't mean we have the money. And again, the way the charter is that the town administrator makes the final decision. Capital committee, planning committee basically gives you a list for each year, what is planned by each department, what they need, spread out over 5 years, replacement equipment, buildings, etc. Out of that stuff, he'll pick what's most important in his mind.
Right.
And then everything falls back, whatever doesn't get done moves the next year up, and everything goes back that way. And that's how it's done every year. So it's not the way you're actually saying it, it's a little different.
Okay.
You have to understand that it's not a wish list, it's something they actually need.
I was being facetious.
I'm just, you know,
I understand now a little more, thank you,
I want the public to understand that's how it really works.
thank you.
Thank you.
On your chart, left-hand column. Interpret it for me, please.
That's for 22. I take the Board of Health top line item,
Yes,
that thing, that's for number one item that they request for 22, the number one item for 24, the number one item for 26.
FY 22, 24, and 26. Very good. Thank you.
And that basically runs down the whole page that way.
Yes, once you start, I know the rest. Any other questions, gentlemen? Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. The next one, Article 2, is the transfer of free cash. John presented the purpose or the objective that they have with respect to pension and the OPEB fund. And that is what they're proposing here in Article 2. Do we have any questions on that? We had a lengthy presentation by John. Now, they've asked, or my conversation with Derek when he first approached this several weeks ago, is I suggested that would he make it a policy for the selectmen? And he hasn't broached that issue yet with them, but it would be nice if they did adopt it as a policy, because even though they could change it if they want to, when, let's say, a couple of years down the road, when everybody changes, it still would cause them to have a discussion as to go over and above what their policy is whenever they do this. This will give us an opportunity too, to pay off our obligations for pension and the OPEB within the time frame set forth in the legislation. I can tell you, you don't have to say anything,
I'm not
Don.
gonna
You
say
have a
anything.
skeptical look on your
This piece of
face.
paper is gonna change again next year and then change again, it's.
It is. No, this is just this year. This is just what he's
I
asking for this
understand.
year.
I'm not
And
gonna
he's
get
gonna be
in, I'm
asking.
not gonna waste everyone's time and how I feel.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? This would be respect to the presentation that John did last week.
Oh, he has drafted a policy for the selectmen.
Oh, he has.
He has drafted one, but I don't believe that's been voted on yet.
Okay, we'll move on to Article 3, which is prior bills. Derek is not here this evening. He unfortunately had something came up. His daughter is, I believe, becoming a math prodigy, and she is in a class of Russian math teaching. And so he has to go and pick her up. But the only prior bill, and it's not necessarily a bill per se, the EMS, what we budgeted them for based on their revenues, came up short because there wasn't the anticipated calls during the COVID. For some reason or other, people weren't calling as frequently as they had prior to. Why? It's kind of a mystery. But there were fewer calls, so there was a deficit.
69,000.
69,000, yes, thank you, Dominic. So it's a transfer of free cash to, turn my page. Yeah, it's a transfer of free cash to cover that. There's approximately 300 less calls, which means less revenue. Based on the prior 6 years, as they call it. So it's about $69,496.99.
Just to put that a little bit in perspective, this year, to date, we've had $37,000 more income coming into EMS than we had last year. So last year looks like an aberration that we'll get over it.
Yeah, we had,
Has there been other years in the past, you guys have been around a lot longer than I have, where you've had to supplement the EMS account?
no,
Never.
no.
Not as long as I can remember, Joey.
That's fine, I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
Most years, they actually had a positive income.
Yes.
Any questions or concerns regarding it?
No, know, I think we've gotta keep EMS running and keep it going. It's a very important part of our town.
Yeah, they're running 3 ambulances, and since the first of the year, they've hired 3, maybe 4 people, if I recall, when I looked in. I was keeping track of the numbers of people that the selectmen are noting that they're being hired. And I counted them up, and that's about that number. I think there's, if you look out on the board outside of Derek's office in yellow, I believe there's 2 vacancies in the EMS that they're looking for people.
So where does this money come from?
Their revenue, billings for the
I don't
ambulance
know. I
runs,
mean, how do we make up $70,000? Where does that money come
free cash. And it's in the special town meeting that's able to be applied to the previous fiscal year. Excuse me, no, it applies to the deficit in that account. Article 4 is the PEG access receipts. This is typically a housekeeping article we go through. Both Comcast and Verizon pay us the licensing fees to the town, but they pay to the town. And the only way WCTV can receive those monies if town meeting transfers it from the town accounts to WCTV. The Article 5, the union contracts, we only have 1 contract. I believe there's about 4 people in this one in particular. It has not been signed as yet, but they anticipate having it signed by town meeting, of course. So that's when we'll know what the details are. And there is an account we have, can't think of the name of it now, but it's relevant to the contracts, to settlement contracts. So there's obviously not monies budgeted in the salary line items for a contract that hasn't been signed. So we have a fund, we set monies aside to make up those deficits based on this contract settlement. And that's where the monies will be coming from. We have approximately 10 unions in the municipal side, and they're all due for negotiations. Any questions? The Tremont Nail revolving fund, what their intent here is to, when they're able to lease the property and gain revenue, is to utilize that revenue to start, paying whatever bills they have, but also in repaying CPC of the monies that they've funded from the beginning. I don't think they can refund the purchase. I think the purchase was bought differently than through CPC. I can't recall now.
It's bought through CPC.
But there was something else in it, but it was mentioned last night. I didn't quite catch it.
The actual money that CPA funds to buy the property, except I think Mrs. Slavin said a note was 1.9 million, because there was several different, it was the initial payment, and then there was a couple of things that happened afterwards. So there's a difference between the 500,000 on that article and the 1.9 as to how much you're gonna get, CPA is gonna be refunded back. If the
Isn't the
property
bond
was,
gonna be paid off first, then CPC? I mean, has that been worked out, what comes first?
no, it's just, I think, well, if the property was sold, then up to 1.9 million would have to be returned to CPA funding. If the property is being leased, it's done differently. The money comes back through the lease over a period of time.
Am I?
Maybe I'm wrong here, I'm reading this wrong, but it says that this is to refund community preservation 1.4 million for the cleanup. Has nothing to do with the purchase price or anything like that.
I was trying to say that the purchase price is separate from.
Yeah, this is,
What they're
the
intending
payment
to
back
do
of
here.
this is just for the cleanup money they spent.
Yes.
The cleanup is like $1.3 million already.
Yeah, it says 1.4, yeah.
And there's more money to come.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's not just the cleanup, it's actually, it's 2 different areas. Either way, will not be refunding CPA program for the total amount
Right.
at this point.
Right.
Anything else? Next one, Article, that is, Article 6, we're done with those articles. And I'm hopefully, depending on what you want to do, gentlemen, would have you start voting this evening on those also. But the next one is Article 15, which is to modify the Housing Authority quorum requirements. And Jim, I believe you are the submitter of this on behalf of the,
The Affordable Housing Trust?
yes,
Okay, that's me. I wasn't sure.
good evening.
Good evening.
Evening, Jim.
You guys have all the motion and everything? You have the description of the motion, what we want to do?
Yes, they
Pass
do.
out?
Yes, they do.
Okay,
I'll make a copy of the other next one.
I got one.
okay, I don't
I
have-
figured it came out in your distribution.
It did, that's all right, I didn't bring it, no big deal.
So, what would you like to know, if you all have it? Any questions?
What is your purpose of this? Do you align yourself as with the
Well,
other
it
committees?
says, the warrant article reads, I don't know if you've got it or not.
Yes, we have everything.
Okay. See if the town will vote to change the Town of Wareham bylaws, Division 7, Article 3, subsection 7, from 4 trustees shall constitute a quorum, but a majority for the full membership shall be required to approve any motion. To 3 trustees shall constitute a quorum, and a majority vote of the full membership shall be required to approve any motion or take any action relative thereto. Motion, I move the town vote to approve the article as printed in the warrant. Explanation, it's the last paragraph now. Wareham Affordable Housing Trust, a 5-member board must have 4 members present to hold a meeting. It's a supermajority for a quorum. But only 3 to approve any motion. The change will allow what to conduct a meeting when 3 members, a simple majority is present. This is generally an accepted quorum for a 5-member board to conduct business.
So you're just trying to align yourself with what is typical
Just
of
general,
boards?
just general Robert's Rules of Orders for, just like you have a simple majority to approve or disapprove, right?
Yes,
You don't need a supermajority.
no.
Selectmen don't.
Any questions,
Well,
gentlemen?
just 3 to 4 people is all.
It's whatever,
That's
a
the
simple
change.
majority, if it's 7, would be, a simple majority would be 4 for 7, 5
3
for
for-
9, 3 for 5.
Okay.
I think the only one that needs a super is a ZBA.
And that's only on specific things.
Yeah, right.
Everything else.
Otherwise, you're vanilla like everyone else.
Yeah,
Yeah. Did
You,
you,
there are 5 members on your board there.
that's it,
All right, so majority is 3.
correct.
And you need a 3, you're saying 3 makes a quorum, and 3 can vote as a majority for the entire board.
Or 4,
Or 4, but if there are only
Yeah.
3 people there, that
right. We can hold a
particular time,
meeting,
you can hold a meeting and
correct.
vote.
yes, you have a comment?
Yes, I do. My
Can you
name
introduce
is,
yourself, please?
my name is Brenda Ekstrom. I'm actually the author of the original Affordable Housing Trust with Sandy Slavin, a couple of other people from back in the day. And I wholeheartedly support this. What it was, our concern was, is that if the Affordable Housing Trust was gonna be dealing with sums of money, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't only 3 people there and then 2 people making a decision. So that's why we did it as a super majority to be there. But even with that, as long as the majority of the board made the decision. So we did a little convoluted, but the way he has it written is the way, what our intention was, so.
But if anything is approved and comes before the town meeting, it still goes through the usual filters, which A, you have to get yourself on the warrant, B, you have to get through us.
We're on the warrant.
See, you have-
And all you do is either
Right.
support it or not support it. Still goes to town meeting floor.
Oh, indeed, but that
Okay,
means
just so,
that's the
yeah.
filter it goes through in terms
Yeah,
of
I
approval,
understand.
so it's not just the board that approves it.
But it makes sense, Bernie.
Indeed, it does, I agree with you,
Makes sense.
yeah. It goes in line with what we do and how we run the town
Correct.
generally. Any other questions, gentlemen?
Good job, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
I hope you don't mind me doing my mouth.
Next one is Article 16. Lose track of myself here. The principal author is Peter Dunlop. Peter? How are you this evening, Peter?
Just ducky. I like the shirt. It fits here, doesn't it?
It does. It's with me anyways.
It's available on Facebook.
This is so that you can read along
Just give us a couple, I'll pass them on for you.
with what I'd like to say.
Oh, we already have it. I do. Okay, Peter, could you give us an idea of what your intent is?
So it's pretty much cut and dry. What I would like to do, what we would like to do, is get back to the way it was prior to 2019, where any multiple body, committee, council, board, any one of these boards by a majority of their members can have an article submitted and not have it be vetoed more or less by the selectmen. As it stands now, only only the ones with citizens petition and the ones submitted by the selectmen go forward. If 3 selectmen decide no, the town people don't get anything to say. These boards and these committees mostly are appointed by the selectmen. They do the research, they hold meetings, they come up with recommendations, and then it's as though the selectmen said, you wasted our time. To me, that just does not seem right.
Well, the whole process is built into a system of checks and balances. I'm not advocating one way or the other, please don't misinterpret me, but I mean, the purpose of the process is a check and a balance. Your committee may want to do something, and okay, the next committee that it has to go through now makes the second decision of whether or not it's valid. That's the check and the balance, and then it goes to town meeting, as it currently is outlined.
Let them check it, but let's take the argument to the people, to the town, not just a 5-member board where 3 people can decide for the entire town.
What was the reason for getting rid of this in the first place?
Okay. Thanks, Stu, that's what I was gonna say. Aren't we wasting our time? This article was changed, the town voted on it. Now you wanna put it back the way it was. Are we spinning our wheels? I mean, we already voted for it. You know, we already voted to change what you have in 2019.
Right, and as far as I'm concerned, that was a mistake.
But the town voted for it. So what?
But
I think we got enough important things to do rather than vote in things and vote them out. And put them back in and take them out. Put them back in. We got enough to do. I'm not for it or against it. I'm just saying.
Well,
Voting,
obviously you're
changing, well, no, is putting something back in that we just voted a couple of years to take out, to me is.
I don't think it was presented to the people properly when they got to take it out. It was prefaced with, we have a couple of housekeeping measures. And it went through town meeting as though it was a bookkeeping
I
item.
don't remember actually, I mean, I usually remember things that I don't remember, it just, to me, it seems like a waste of time.
But
We've already voted for
But
it.
Dominic, if
Right.
the committee makes a decision and votes it and recommends it,
Let it, I guess let it be
then
heard.
the selectmen should not be in a position to be able to say, we're not gonna bring it up. Let the
Are the
sound.
okay, Tom, I see what you're trying to say, but then on the other hand, you're saying the selectmen's powerless?
No.
They vote.
They can.
They can
They
say.
can't veto it, you just said that.
No, they can't veto it, but they don't necessarily have to agree to it. Last night, when I took it to the selectmen, the vote was 3-2 in favor of bringing it forward.
Okay.
All I'm asking from you is the same kind of a vote, to bring it forward. Let
Well,
the people
vote.
decide.
I'm an agreeer in letting the people vote. I
Well,
just think that,
There's two votes you're referring to, Peter. One was to put it on the ballot. The second is that they voted last night was a recommendation of how they feel about the issue itself. Now, it was on the ballot because it's a petitioned article, so they never had a decision to make about that, whereas they commonly do on all others, except the citizen, as you point out.
No, they couldn't veto it, you're right.
Correct, because it was a
But
petitioned article.
they
But I
could've-
mean, last night was their recommendation of how they feel about what you're requesting.
Right. Now, one of the points that Peter Titlebaum brought up was that maybe we should think about if it could unbalance Derek's budget. Well, that's gonna be you, because obviously, and the article comes to you, you're gonna either be for it or against it, and you're going to be the ones looking at the money end of it.
Indeed, that would be our
You
principal
know,
focus.
that don't mean anything. Just like,
You don't think that
No,
your voice at town meeting means anything?
of course it does.
it might mean something, but if it's a critical issue, our voice could be, overvoted.
Right.
Can I just ask again?
That's what I'm saying, Pete. I understand where Peter was coming from, okay? And if there is an issue, even if we vote either way on the issue, town will see our recommendation. Does not mean they're going to take it. So the town could actually vote against the finance committee. So you can't say,
You're
because
absolutely
we
right.
look at it, it's going to end them.
Well, I mean, anything, if
Sure.
if you look at all the overrides.
There must have
Well,
been some
you-
kind of reason at the time that this was taken out. What was it?
Too much nonsense coming before the town. The selectmen tried to limit access of certain things. In other words, if it was frivolous or, shut it down before it goes there.
They were getting some things that weren't legal
Yeah.
in the way they were
And
worded,
nonsense, yeah.
and they were
A
trivial.
lot of stupid stuff
And it
years
just
ago.
never should have done, yeah. And that, as Dominic says, and he has more years in this than I do, and yeah, there was some trivial stuff that
Yeah.
came on that was absolutely
So
ridiculous.
And it was a check for the selectmen to just shut it down before it goes any
What
further.
what has changed?
Nothing.
all of a sudden
That's
we're
what
not
I
gonna
thought.
get
It has a filter. The selectmen filter it.
No, I mean, why do we think it's gonna be any different than it used to be if we put this back in?
Thank you, Stuart.
Yeah, it's going
Thank
back to
you.
the old style.
I agree with
The
you.
It has a potential for repeating itself. Alan?
I signed the petition, just so you understand.
I'm sorry, I'm
I
sorry.
signed the petition,
Okay.
okay? Myself, Jim is here, and Mrs. Whiteside, we all voted for it. The reason is simply that over the last 3 or 4 years, if you look back, you'll see that there's been more citizens petition articles coming forward. These articles are coming forward because people feel that the Board of Selectmen will never put the article through, not because it's wrong or written wrong, they just personally don't like it. There's certain people with certain agendas, and it's becoming a problem. You've got 5 citizen petition articles for this particular, series here. All 5 of those are, basically are done because they don't feel the Board of Selectmen would act on them at all because they're not for it. Therefore, they lock it out beforehand. And that's the basic reason. It's got worse over the last 3 or 4 years. So what's happened is that, we have what we call town meeting government. Town meeting government is basically that the legislative body, which is town meeting, and finance committee is part of the legislative body as well, are supposed to let the citizens make the decision. You have that every day in your own government, whether it's the state or the federal government. Whether you think something's right or wrong, the majority rules, and that's how it works. We don't allow the majority to rule when the selectmen ahead of time basically take something because they personally don't like it, which is literally what's happening, and they lock it out. So the citizens never have a chance to express their opinion at all. It's wrong.
I can use the CPC as an example. When we adopted the CPC, it's specific in the legislation that the only ones who can second guess yes or no is the legislature. It specifically makes that statement.
Yeah.
Only the legislative body can make that decision. And a couple of years ago, the selectmen refused to allow one of the CPC requests to come on the warrant.
That was basically the housing authority, you know, they wanted like, I think originally 6 units. And it was gonna be $500,000, actually goes back to 2015, not 2017. So if we had 6 units of affordable housing at $500,000, and the Board of Selectmen 3 times killed the article before it could go forward this way. So when it finally came forward and got approved by the selectmen and voted on, we basically got 4 units for, I think, 600. Jim, was it 600?
650.
So we got 4 instead of 6.
And we paid more money because we delayed it for 3 years. So it's not, I understand what you said, but it's really not. It's, you have a situation where, unfortunately, a majority of the selectmen at times have the personal agenda and are basically locking people out from getting articles done.
Since this was removed,
Let the people vote.
Yeah.
That's all we're
Stuart.
doing.
Vote.
since this
Alan.
was,
Hang on, Stuart.
I'm not against that.
That's all it is.
Go ahead, Stuart.
since this was removed, do these boards that previously got something on their warrant, do they now do a citizen's petition?
No, they can just go ahead and do a regular petition from the
No,
planning
I
board, whatever.
understand what they can do if we reinstate this.
What's happening now is you have certain articles that instead of going through the, say, the planning board or any board, citizens get together and do it themselves instead of going through the board.
I mean, if the planning board wanted to put something on the warrant and the selectmen said no,
I wouldn't get on.
They want to get on.
I understand, but
Then
what do
the
they need, 4 more people to sign a citizen's petition?
If
And then
it's,
they can't stop a citizen's
Did-
petition.
and that's what's been happening.
But there's a fly in that ointment,
What's that? That's what I want to know.
okay? As a citizen, I'm not entitled to Rich Bowen's knowledge. As a member of a board, I would be entitled to council's counsel. So the motion would be written properly.
Okay, that's good news.
I made the comment last night that basically I feel bad because people having to go this way to do it. I actually did it myself. The NIP article, I wrote it and I had someone else put it through. The Board of Selectmen would have never put it on. That's what's really happening. But the bottom line to all this is that when a citizen has to write an article, and we have 5 articles before us, and I spent a lot of time looking at them, 4 of the 5 articles have issues, which may or may not pass muster, depending whether it goes to the AG's office or whatever. So one of the articles, I'm not gonna get into it now, is a resolution, it's not even an
Yes.
article. So all I'm saying is that when people do it, I don't have a way as a selectman to provide services to someone doing a citizen's article to review it for them.
So
So it's a real problem.
if a board or a committee, one of these are they required to go to town council to get the opinion whether it's
They're
legal?
not required, but
Yeah.
it certainly would be
Town
smart.
council reviews every article that comes from any board, committee, commission, the town of Wareham,
Which is
all
legally
the selectmen,
written.
all the town administrator. But nobody else has access except for them.
I bet they do review it. They-
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
The real issue is that if you get an article through to the town meeting, and it's a particular interest group is supporting that article, they can pack the town meeting
Yep.
and put things through that really don't make sense to the town, for the whole town. And so you're asking the selectmen to be sort of the filter for what's reasonable to have happen.
Yeah.
That's how I originally felt.
Yeah, and when the article was changed in 2019, that was put through by Selectman Timelebone. The reason that was put through, and the reason he did it was, the selectmen at that point had basically verbally, I'm not sure how public it did, they were very upset with the citizen petition articles, because it was an end around and bypassing it. And that's why that came through. It wasn't because the system was wrong, it was that they were upset that
Been talked about for a long time.
it was a way to get around them, the end around.
But each of the committees, and we're an exception, because we cannot propose anything, but all the other committees in town, and they can propose something to go on the warrant, go to Rich Bowen, and have him review it, change the language to make it legal and acceptable. But they also have to identify each committee as working the best they can. They're as volunteers just as we are, and when they want to do something, change something or what have you, they can see it in a more intellectual manner than anyone who's removed for it. Let's say when it comes to us, we're dependent on Peter or whomever to present what their purpose is in their article. So it gets filtered anyway.
But it can't,
But I think
but
these,
you might think it get filtered, but there's no way to stop it.
no, no.
You can filter it, but you can't stop it.
But I
The
know,
way it was before, the selectmen could stop it.
but you have to have respect for your fellow committees though, that they're trying to do the
I
same
agree-
job you
I
are.
agree with that,
Yeah,
but, you know, like he said, just, I guess let the people vote, because it's really coming before us, doesn't really have a financial input.
Well, that's not necessarily true.
Oh, well, in the long run it will, yes, I understand it,
It-
but
it-
the article
it
itself
would- it would
is not
obviously
gonna
depend
change.
on-
The article itself has no financial.
Well, it would depend on the article.
no, but
Your article right
Your
now.
article.
No, this
Yeah.
article
That's what I'm
has
trying
no
to say.
fun.
It doesn't.
Sure, I understand what it might
But
cause, I
take,
understand.
it's too bad Jim left.
He's right behind you.
Here's what,
he's there in a quietly in the
No, no,
background.
Jim Gibberti.
Oh,
Oh,
If the sewer commissioners
You don't want that.
voted to have an article on it, now they're an elected body by the town. Another elected body can turn them down? That does not seem right.
if it's frivolous, why not?
If it's frivolous.
Well, but you're taking that check away.
Or what's frivolous to you might not be
I'm not
frivolous to
saying it is
me.
or it isn't. I'm saying if it is, well, look, man, just, I go round and round, everyone has their own.
but I mean, you have a point,
There's three
Peter.
sewer users on that committee, and there may be self-interest in it. You don't know how.
But the point is that they're elected. That's all I was trying to bring up.
I agree with you, what you're trying to do,
Yeah.
but I can see how we got to where we are.
Well, there's no question that we're liable to have longer town meetings.
No,
That doesn't bother me.
we're liable to have bad or poor decisions,
I don't
either
go to town
way.
meeting, I have to stay home with my wife, so what's the difference?
you're killing me
Let's
now.
move along, please.
I'm just going, I mean, I think things should go in front of town meeting, make the final decision. I think as a body here, we only make a recommendation, and if something comes in front of us that we really take an 0-9 vote, well, we gotta make the argument why we're not recommending this. And the selectmen have the same opportunity to make a recommendation and make their argument as to why they may or may not recommend. I think at the end of the day, the townspeople should be making a decision.
Right.
It's
But
in-
That's just me speaking.
It's incumbent upon the finance committee, if there's an article coming forward that can adversely affect the town financially.
Yep.
It's incumbent upon that committee, you know, and I use Arlington as a basis, because I know the people in Arlington really well, to make an argument, you know, of why not, when they put it on paper and put it up on the screen, to show people, here's the numbers and this is what's gonna happen. It's extremely effective at the time of town meeting. I see more than a few articles get defeated because the finance committee had a problem with it, explained what the issue was, and it got defeated.
And you might,
That's your job.
you might note, Jody, that the only explanation town meeting sees is ours.
Yeah, you know, I,
No, they see the board's
That's
not.
not true.
No, it's not printed in our report.
They stand up and say it.
Oh, that's how they have to do it.
And they can present it, as people come in, they can hand
Yeah.
flyers to everybody.
And you can also have it put up on the screen.
yes.
Yes, they
Yes.
can.
But it's a two-edged sword. Do you think in terms of when you, if you were to divide the committees, there are some that, yes, they should have, as you point out, the water pollution, they're an elected body. And if they screw up, they're not reelected. And that's the same thing with the selectmen, that's why they're an elected body. If you don't like them, you vote them out next time. So that's one issue with you. As an elected body, they have the authority to spend money and they should be able to do so. You might with CPC, it's written into legislation, town has accepted it. So that may be two exceptions to the rule of going through the selectmen. But we're not making that dividing, we're not dividing it up here. This is everybody concerned. And it has valid arguments on both sides of the issue.
But I think, as you pointed out, typically a town committee has access to other expertise within the town before they present something versus a committee of regular citizens who may want to do the same thing, but they don't have the expertise behind them to put together their proposal and put together their article for town meeting. So I think this is a good idea.
Thank you.
Any other discussion, gentlemen? There being none, Peter, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one is Article 17.
That's me. Good job.
Thank you. Appreciate it both.
Hello, Brenda, welcome.
Like the Board of Elders. Hi, guys.
How are you doing?
Good. You have-
Article 17 is to change the makeup and manner of selection of the Wareham Redevelopment Authority. By all means, you have the floor.
Thank you. The redevelopment authority right now consists of 5 members. 2 are selectmen. 1 is the town administrator. 1 is the town planner. And 1 is a citizen at large that's appointed by the Board of Selectmen. Nothing against the Board of Selectmen. You know I love yous. But in the, no, a couple of years I do. But I think that speaking with people and looking at things that they've done or haven't done is more apt. We have a town administrator who's very busy, we have a town planner who is extremely busy, and we have 2 selectmen on the board, and it seems like their meetings are kind of a laundry list of things that they need to do, and then the next week it's the same list that hasn't really had anything done to it. And I think that I look at the No to Nodos campaign, and I think that there's a lot of people in this town that really want to have a say in the direction of the town. And I think that as far as the development goes, I think that having elected people so that they can actually go out and give their ideas to say, you know, I'm looking for this, or I think we should do this, and give ideas for the redevelopment of areas in town. Because right now, as far as I know, they did the Littleton Drive. But that was the previous, that was actually Cedar, wasn't it? That,
Oh, no.
oh, it was them?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so they did the Littleton Drive, they made that deal. But as of right now, despite them saying that they own the property, it still is not recorded in the Registry of Deeds, it's still under the town of Wareham. So if they can't even get a deed recorded in 2 years, I don't see a lot of production there. And we do need people to be looking at what's going on in this town. And just like you guys, you know, you're all volunteers, but you're dedicated to this committee, to seeing something happen. And I just don't, I think that we need more robust and more representation on it. And I think that more people, it would be a good idea to have people that are just dedicated to just that. Right now, we have 1 person on that committee who's dedicated to just that. And when the last meeting, or one of the last meetings, the gentleman who was the appointee, he was leaving, and the committee said to the new appointee, just so you know, he's the one that takes all the minutes, and he's the one that keeps the list of what we have to do and keeps us in line, so we'll be expecting you to do that too. So out of the out of 4 people, 2 elected, 2 that are getting paid, they're gonna have the new guy take minutes and do that. So I just think that if you had elected people, people that had interest in what happens in the town, I think it would be better. That's all.
Dominic, have a comment?
How would you like it, what is your suggestion for how the board should be?
Oh, I have that, I'm sorry, I thought you had the article, I'm sorry, honey. I have it that it should be 4 elected and 3 appointed.
Thank you.
And the 3 appointed should have this certain interest that, you know, it doesn't have to be a business owner, but someone who's involved in business, in accounting, things that have, you know,
Your election references to the town-wide election.
yes, yes.
Why did you pick a 5-year term?
Because I don't think I think it's very difficult to get things done in 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. Most of them are 3 years. But I think that it gives people security. It gives people the ability to, it gives them the ability to explain things, to not rush things. If I know that, like, you're a finance committee member, then I know that people trust you with the numbers, or you're trustworthy. If you say to me, this will cost $4 million, you would hope that people would believe you because you're on the finance committee. And I think that things like this, that they should be in a, there should be some longevity to it, like a commitment to the town. I don't want people coming up with an idea, doing it, and then boom, they're gone, you know? So that they can stand by what they are doing.
You're also there long enough to see a project through.
Yeah.
But there are 4 members with a 5-year plan, so there's 1 year, you're gonna be having an election, 4 years, and then skip a year,
But
and
one
then
will
4
be-
years, and then skip a year.
Yeah.
They'll be staggered, so not necessarily because you have the other 3, so that you'll, like, say, appoint one and elect one like that year, you know what I mean? So you stagger even the appointed one, so it would be 5 years. You would, in theory, you may, you know, that person may leave, but you still have the main core through the time of a project. I mean, I just went through, on a personal level, I just went through a real estate transaction, and it started in 2014. And I just finished it in the spring because of clouds on the titles, issues with things, going back and forth or whatever. So especially when you're dealing with, you know, these aren't short-term goals that you want. You want people there for the long haul, and you want, you know.
Jerry?
So Brenda, are the, like the assets and revenue and expenses of the authority, are they part of the town? Is that a department of the town? Are there accounts managed? Who are those accounts managed
Well, right now,
by?
they have no money, they have nothing. It was, and maybe the selectmen could help me with this, the CETA funds were supposed to be turned over, but according to the committee, they have no money.
I guess
So I'm guessing the town,
I'm trying to work
No.
here, the connection with the town, and you're throwing in elected people to work with town employees. See, I'm not getting the connection as to the assets of the authority, where the town transfers them to the redevelopment authority. I know what an authority means, but then where are those a separate set of books? Are they part of the town?
Alan?
The Wareham Redevelopment Authority was put together, basically, we had EDIC for years. It then got changed to CETA. There was a beach and tourism committee put together because a couple of people didn't like CETA. I'm not gonna get into the details. It didn't work, so the next thing out of the blue, certain people then proposed the Wareham Redevelopment Authority with the idea of removing CETA that way, which is exactly what happened. The assets of CETA went to the Redevelopment Authority. Redevelopment Authority is supposed to be a nonprofit organization. If you look at any city or town that has a redevelopment authority, I've never seen it where selectmen are part of it. I can understand why you would want possibly the town administrator and the director of planning or their designee, because they're on the ground knowing what's going on. But usually they're not involved either as far as on that committee. It's usually like 5 people, and they have to have a background in property management, you know, banking, investments, et cetera. You know, people who develop properties, that's what you're doing. When you say they have no money, the reason they have no money is they spent what they got.
Yeah.
See that, in other words, see the money was turned over every year.
Oh, yeah.
And it was
And the
spent,
property.
so it's
Now, the
spent down
property-
to zero.
Yeah,
Okay.
the properties they get is turned over through town meeting to the redevelopment authority. The town owns the property, turns it over for $0, obviously, and that's how that's how the redevelopment authority would get funding to go out and develop more property, get it going, sell it, or lease it or whatever, and then continue going. That's the whole idea. But unfortunately, we had, probably going off subject, we had the Bay Point Golf Club. There's a piece of land that the town owned that was not part of the sale. We had an RFP go out for $600,000, and it was basically the only person who really bid on it was the golf course, of course. But they've never paid for it. It's like 3 or 4 years now. So they don't have any money because for some reason they made some kind of deal, so Stone Street has been able to delay, hasn't paid any money at all. So they don't have money because they haven't been really working properly. I'm personally quite upset because I put the deal together originally with town council, you know, as far as what would happen, because they were having a problem with development. But the bottom line is, for myself personally, I don't believe the way it's set up is proper for redevelopment authority. I was gonna write an article myself and put it through, see if the selectmen would do it or not. But Brenda did one, so I just backed away because it's been a problem. I have, just as an example, I have a project from Merchants Way to develop the boardwalk there. The engineering work, the basic design was done years ago now. And I need probably $50,000 to $70,000 because myself and Ken Buckland went to Mass DOT in Boston, sat down with the Secretary of Transportation, et cetera, and we said we need 2 controlled gate crossings so we can have people safely go across the tracks legally with controlled gates so they can walk the boardwalk and we can use it as a part of the redevelopment. Well, I've been waiting 3 years almost because they have no money, and it comes out of the redevelopment authority. So we've been waiting to do this, and they have no money because they could have had $600,000. What money they did have, they spent Littleton Drive and other things, and nothing's come forward yet. I mean, if you remember the Littleton Drive project, the town meeting, they wanted to give the people in Littleton Drive originally wanted $500,000, then they wanted $1.3 million, and then they came back at $830,000. But $275,000 of that money that they were gonna get was immediately gonna go back to the redevelopment authority, which nobody really understood. And then it'd be monthly payments of the lease over so many years. So the way it's being run to me is, I use the word FUBA. If you don't know what it means, you figure it out.
Fugami. So if I said to you, I'd like to see the books and records of the authority that shows assets, liabilities.
You could have to go to the town accountant, and she has that separate.
Oh, she has it separate.
Yes.
Then does that fold into the town financial
No,
statements?
it's not part of the town.
No,
No.
so
It's a separate
it's not
entity.
transparent.
No.
It's not, yeah, you just
That's a
answered
good
yourself.
word, yeah, there you go.
It's not transparent because it's not a town department.
Right, and it's not, it's a Fugami, it's nothing?
The
I use
difficulty,
the word FUBA, sorry.
Okay.
the difficulty I have with the makeup of it, and I mean no respect to any of them or their intent, is that they totally lack expertise in that area. Town manager and Ken should not be involved in it. He
You could
should
have
be
the
the advisor
designees
at
do it.
best.
Well,
And the people who involved, as you mentioned earlier, should have some skills within the markets they're dealing business with, and they don't. And unfortunately, I think that is the biggest problem, and they're not independent either. If whatever they do has to pass through the selectmen to get on town meeting warrants, there's already 2 people who voted for it, and they should recuse themselves. But on the current way it goes, there are 2 votes, however they voted, and they only have 1 of the 3 to recruit, and it goes through. And that, again, as I mentioned earlier, the filter.
And with this, I have that, and I agree that, you know, the town administrator, you know, and the town planner may be able to contribute. So I have them as ex officio non-voting members. so that we can get their expertise, you know, we know, but, they're not making a decision
Yeah.
on it.
Too many other groups that we have them as members, and they shouldn't be a member of anything.
No, I agree.
So,
Hey, any-
excuse me,
Go ahead.
profits then, where do you see if it's successful in its activities, what happens to profits?
Well, I
Does
think
it
what happens, yeah, it goes, like,
continue? It's
right now
like an
they're talking
enterprise
about,
fund in a sense.
the last meeting I was at, they were talking about selling Recovery Road. And, okay, if they sell it, great, then they have money. They could rent it, you know, which we did before with,
We're renting it now, we signed a contract to
Oh,
rent
did-
it.
oh, all right, great.
But we have to wait a couple of years because we use money from a particular way, you know, program, and we can't
Oh,
turn
I
around and
didn't
sell
know
it
that.
for like 2 or 3 more years.
okay, cause they were talking about selling it and it was,
We can't right now.
Yes, and, but they, well, okay, pretend we could. But you could either sell it short-term money, or if they rent it, but I guess there was some issues because, again, I think it was you earlier talking about maintenance. Because it wasn't maintained, now there's so many issues in it that they'd have to put so much money into it. So, it's these things that, and it still hasn't gone anywhere. It's been a year, 2 years, 3 years, and these things haven't gone anywhere.
So getting all this property for nothing, it ought to be flush with cash if it can do something with the property.
Well, they could be doing something, that's right, they could at least be
You know,
doing
I mean,
something
you
with
pay
it.
zero for something, you hope you sell it for $1, that's
Yeah,
your buck.
there
huh?
you go, then you just made so much money on it, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway, it's just, I think that we need to have, if we're gonna be serious about a redevelopment authority, then we need to have people who that is what they wanna do, that is it's not, oh, this is part of my, you know, it's the add-on to the job that I never knew I was gonna have to do type of thing, or, I just think people, and I know there are people out there that are interested. Because, you know, no one wants, well, I'll put it in affordable housing terms. No one wants the 150 unit in their neighborhood. But if you could get it so that these people knew where to put it, that it wasn't bothering people, it was gonna bring in something positive to the town. So in that way, I look at like the redevelopment authority, that they'll, you know, people who are passionate about it, they don't want just things thrown at the town so that, oh, it'll be revenue. They're gonna be thoughtful about it. They're gonna work with the, our current zoning and things like that. And the reason why I have elected is so that they can get up and tell the people what my credentials are, why I think I should do it, what my idea is for the town and the properties. And I think that's a heck of a lot better than, you know, sitting at a meeting, having the selectmen and having say, oh, I wanna do that one, I wanna do that one. And no one knows what their thoughts are on
You know,
anything.
they're prone to come with an agenda.
Bernie, I'm sorry, I have to leave. When's the next meeting?
Next Wednesday.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye, Al.
Nice seeing
Good
you.
to see you.
Same here,
Good luck
Dominic.
with it.
Thank you.
I'm for that, by the way.
Thank you, honey.
Any other questions, gentlemen? Concerns, questions, comments?
Back to your low-income housing.
Yeah, you wanna hear, I was gonna
Yeah.
tell you that. If you have no more questions on this, is that, you guys all set with this?
Let us not drift too long.
No, just very quickly.
Okay.
The Attorney General, the head of the municipal law department called me 2 weeks ago. Because they've never seen anything like it, she's impressed with it, but because they've never seen anything like it, and they can't just go to another town and take theirs, they have to do the research on it, so they just asked the town for, is it 90 days, I think?
Yeah.
60 or 90
They
days
have
extension.
90-day extension.
But I've already worked with DHCD, I already have, the whole, affirmative marketing plan done. I've already submitted it as a draft to see, and they want me to separate it to rentals and, things, so I'm working on that right now. I was hoping to be able to start doing presentations in October, but as I, talked to, the district attorney, you know, I said to, because she said, well, we're gonna ask for 60 or 90 days. I said, you know, that's okay, because I'd rather have it right. And hopefully, if it all goes well, December, January, I'll be doing presentations for people, and then we'll be getting it moving, and we should be able to get numbers and people in houses by the summer, next summer, and clean up our affordable housing problem.
Stay wound up, kid.
I am, I believe it, that's my passion, so.
The only problem I think we're gonna have with the article, and I'm not sure
With
how
this?
it's gonna work, is there's no ascension plan. And there is no plan listed as far as, you know, the term breakups for the elected, you know, versus the appointed. It's blank. I mean, one of the articles you're gonna see talks about $15,000.
Yeah.
But doesn't talk anywhere about where the money's coming from. You can't say we're gonna use money unless you have a source for it. So, and this is strictly because people are not used to writing an article and understanding how much detail has to be in there. And to me, that it's ridiculous, because you put all this work into it, and you don't know something, and your article becomes, you know, has to come back again.
Yeah.
Or if it's a zoning article or a bylaw, it goes to the AG's office, and they're tough. If it's just a regular article, it's usually, they don't look at it at all.
Oh, and you're right. It can get very complex with the language, but even the commas and periods are important.
No, words like could, shall, may, huge words.
Yeah. Brenda, thank you very much.
Thank you
What are we
very
doing
much.
about the $600,000?
I'm causing as much trouble as you can right now, because I've been yelling about it for 6 months, 7 months now. I haven't got a decent answer.
But they're building over there now, so you gotta be able to.
Been building for a
Brakes on
while.
some of that.
Yeah, I had a meeting with Tim, you know, and he just said, well, you know, the redevelopment authority, we had a meeting and they came up with a plan. They were gonna have them off the record, they were gonna, the town was gonna,
List of the things you need.
redevelopment authority was gonna take a piece of the land and give him the other piece, and only have to pay like $300,000 instead. And the land that we were gonna end up with was useless. It's just, it just rubs me the wrong way, and I'll leave it at that.
I don't
Yep.
blame it.
I mean, we had a deal all set, and, you know, it just, whatever. I'll let it go, but that's the reason I get upset with the authority.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, we have Article 18, which is the collection of fees and penalties for earth removal of the town of Wareham. And,
Did Mr. Cosgrove contact you?
pardon?
Did Mr. Cosgrove contact you?
Barry.
Barry? Yes,
Oh, okay,
yes.
okay. Just because I was saying, I heard that he was in, I don't know if he's still in Hawaii, but he was.
I apologize, I didn't cross that off. Yeah, because 18, 19, and 20 are rescheduled for next week.
What about this
I
Zoom,
thought it was scheduled.
this Zoom meeting thing?
Pardon?
This Zoom meeting, 17?
No,
That's different.
Oh,
that is
that's
that is
17.
an erroneous number
That's
by the
19.
selectman's office, Tom.
What's the Zoom meeting position?
I don't know.
No,
That has been renumbered, excuse me. I beg your pardon.
I
Okay.
had that.
Zoom is number 19.
19.
You were just 17, weren't you?
Yes,
No.
I was, I'm 17.
Zoom is number 19. This is number 18, that,
That's the earth
Um,
removal.
the collection of fees. And that's the correct number, what you probably have on your matrix. Number 17 in the warrant is actually number 19.
Okay.
Number
So it goes
6.
16, 19, 18, 19?
And 18 is actually 17, and 19 is actually 18. Cassandra hasn't corrected that yet. I don't think she knows it's in error. I'll tell her tomorrow. I'm sorry, thank you. So I've deleted and I've already got the agenda made up for next week. Now, if you would like, gentlemen, we can vote on some of the issues, or we can start at number 1. Because some of them we reviewed in terms of the harbor services, CPC. We've had them before us already. Number 1 is the capital plan, and we won't see that till next week. 2 is the transfer of cash. Which is $300,000 for OPEB, $150,000 for retirement, $150,000 into stabilization. 300,000 into unemployment reserve, and 200,000 into, I can't read my own handwriting, collect,
It's right here, it's good, Brent, it's,
Yes.
you just gotta hand it up,
oh, okay,
I think.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Because what he handed
So
me
to
this
speed
as we
things
walked
up,
in.
Why don't, I mean, we all just heard them. I'm
Yes.
gonna make a motion to recommend Articles 2, 3, and 4.
Jody, make a motion to
Transfer
recommend
cash.
2, 3, and 4.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Jerry?
On the transfer of free cash, does that have to include any capital items?
No, that'll be in Article 1.
That'll be in Article 1,
Okay,
yeah.
so even though it's gonna be taken out of free cash, it won't have to be in
That's a
that
good
too.
point, yeah.
Correct.
Okay? I mean, it's gotta be taken out of free cash.
Right, but in
Yeah.
Article
So-
2, it says the following free cash transfers are being requested.
Right.
So
But
this
there's-
Article 2 talks about,
But if there's
But
anything in
isn't
the
there
capital
three?
plan that requires transfer of free cash.
Won't there be more than just letter E?
uh,
Considering
no,
the
can't be
capital
added to.
plan? No? Okay,
No, the capital plan,
all right.
the transfer of free cash is specifically for those
He's saying
those
you
issues
can't
that we've
do
already discussed.
Two before you do one. That's what I understand you're saying.
That's my train of thought now. Tom.
Okay,
No,
I'm with you.
Yeah,
Believe it or not.
there's $900K in free cash for Article 2,
Okay.
so they're
the
saying,
total,
In
Article
order to
2,
fund number one, money's gonna have to come out of free cash.
also free cash, yes.
That'll be part of the article, whenever it's.
Is there something, because we use free cash in one article, that it's only article used for that article? Free
No, it
cash?
Just seems to me we ought to put them all in one article.
Well, it depends, I think, the purpose he intends. I understand what you're going, it all comes out of the same place and goes to the same
but we
place.
haven't exceeded, Article 2 hasn't exceeded what the estimated free cash is.
And Article 2 hasn't been specified yet either, as to the amount of free cash.
So,
I'm sorry, in Article 1, I'm looking at
Article
Article
1.
1, has not specified the amount
Right.
of free cash. You haven't decided that, because we are our representative on that.
has not been voted yet.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for 2, 3, and 4.
Been moved and seconded.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, may I ask the clerk to take a roll, please?
Tom, yea or nay?
I'm back to the first question, how you can approve two without knowing what one is.
See, we can go by
Because
what
it's
Article
irrelevant.
2 is written.
It's irrelevant. You're playing, out of 4 million, you're appropriating 900,000. That's all you're doing.
So when you,
So whatever is left, if you want to use it for Article 1, you can. If you
Okay,
want to
so
dump
you just-
Article.
See, we can't change the wording on this Article 2.
Right.
No,
Okay.
We're
Excuse
approving
me?
what's
We,
in
we
front
have to
of
vote
us.
on it the way it's written.
that's correct. That's in the warrant.
Gotcha.
That's in
All
the
right.
warrant.
But maybe I'm wrong, but if we vote $900,000 of this free cash, and then the capital plan comes through, and we think more than what's left over, maybe half of what we just spent in free cash should go to a capital project. It isn't there, because we already voted. We didn't even know
We can change our
what the
vote if you
capital
want.
plan was.
We can change our vote if you want. Because we're not going to do this, the final on Article 1, until next week. So if you want to change, if something comes up in that issue, we can just change our recommendation.
See, now, and I probably shouldn't make this assumption, it's not my place, but the town administrator is gonna know what's left and only bring forward what fits into the
Because he's not
cash
going to
that's
spend
there.
it all.
Or you can look at it this way.
Why don't
We
you
approve
approve
what's
3 and
there
4?
now, okay, and
And
then if
Article
there's,
2.
and then next week, if there's more that needs to come out of free cash, then we can rescind the vote we take tonight on Article 2, and then do a new article, or
But
transfer.
Article 1 should come in with whatever the capital plan, whatever these folks vote on
Yeah.
next.
But I can tell you this, Article 2 will dominate. he is very intent on making up our obligation, unfunded obligations.
So I heard.
Yea or nay, Tom? The clerk has asked you first.
No, fine, yes, go.
Jody,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Bernie,
Yes,
myself, yes.
Yes.
Stuart, yeah,
Yes.
okay, that's,
700.
So one,
Going to
two,
do those three took that long?
so that's
You wait to get to the others.
2, 3, and 4.
Okay, so the union contract is gonna be.
We're hold because we don't know the
Oh,
specifics.
that's covered-
Hasn't been signed yet.
four. That's why I kinda skipped over 4, I didn't.
And Article 6 is to change the wording in the revolving fund regarding Tremont Nail to the repayments to the Community Preservation Fund.
Yep.
Move to approve it.
Move to recommend, yeah. Second.
Stewart's moved, Jody seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Jody?
Dave,
Yes.
Bernie,
Yes,
myself, yes. Stuart?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
700. Tremont Nail remediation, Article 7. Something we do every year, it's a
Housekeeping.
housekeeping, I'd say, yes.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Jody moves, Stewart seconded. Clerk call the
Yes.
roll, please.
Jody,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Bernie,
Yes,
myself, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
700. On the Community Preservation Fund Reserve Adjustment,
I'm gonna move to recommend 8 and 9.
8 and 9.
Those are basically housekeeping ones.
Okay.
I'll second those.
Jody
Yes.
moved, Stewart seconded.
Yes.
Jody,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Bernie,
Yes,
myself,
Yes.
Stuart.
Yes.
Okay.
700. The Article 10, Swift Beach Playground.
I move to recommend.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded by Jody and Stewart. What a
Yes.
combo we got going there.
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Bernie,
Yes.
myself, yes.
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 I just want to say, I said to the young lady that was here last week that I tried to find where this playground was going. Well, I went down and I found where the playground is
Yeah.
going. It's a great location.
It is.
I mean, I
Beautiful over there.
thought, wow, this is really nice.
This will be
So
nice.
I really,
It's a large empty lot, isn't it?
it's a large empty
Yeah,
lot,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's a great location with
Well, it
a,
is now.
And they've got almost 2 beaches down there. 'Cause they've got one where
Yeah.
the playground is, and there's
Yeah.
another one, and then there's a private one.
yeah.
If they can improve that in those areas, the real estate values on Swift Beach are gonna go up.
Mhm.
And there's no way
Yeah. They
to
got,
avoid them. I mean, it's
they got a
gonna
great
be
location.
that much more attractive.
It is a beautiful spot.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was pretty cool.
Article 11 is the Wickets Island Pier Restoration.
Did we vote on 10, officially vote?
Oh, I'm sorry,
No.
no, we didn't.
Tom?
Yes.
Well, no, did we
Yeah, we
vote?
did.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
No.
voted that.
Oh, did
On
we
this
vote?
one.
Okay,
On the-
okay, I'm sorry, I kinda lose my marbles.
On the
over
Swift
here.
Beach, I think we voted, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yes.
Everyone agree?
made
We
the
voted?
comment.
Okay.
Move to recommend Article 11.
Second?
David seconded this one.
Stu was a little slow,
Yes.
but tricky.
I was looking at
Yes.
something else.
Dave?
Yes.
Dave, Bernie?
Yes.
Yes. Stuart?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Okay. 700, Bernie.
Okay, and now the Harbor Island,
Move
12,
to
13,
recommend 12
14,
and 13,
and 14.
and 14, sorry.
Second.
And neither of those are going to affect the tax rate.
No.
It's coming out of
Harbor
Yeah.
receipts.
harbor
I'll have a
receipts.
receipt, yeah.
Mhm.
So what you thinking, Tom?
Yes.
Jody?
I'm not thinking yes.
I have
Did I
a question
misspeak?
on that. How many boats do we have in town? I
You
mean.
mean the Harbor Services and boats?
it-
I think they have 2.
The Onset Fire Department has one?
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh, they have
Does the
several.
police department have one? I mean, if you had an emergency out on the bay, like, how many groups show up? The Coast Guard shows up, the,
Surrounding towns show up too.
Huh?
Yeah, surrounding towns, it's all
Yeah.
hands on
It's
deck.
Everybody's there.
amazing how fast they get there.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
So there'll be boats running into each other.
You have a story to tell us?
No, remember, what was it, I don't know, last year or the year before,
Yeah,
that
the
horrible
kid, the boat
tragic?
Yeah.
went over,
Yeah.
drowned,
And
kid drowned.
people showed up, like, literally within minutes.
They have, we had one this year over at Little Harbor. It ended up being nothing, but somebody called in from Little Harbor Beach that they saw somebody flipped over inside the harbor. It took them 7 minutes to get crews on scene to check on everyone. Everybody
Took how
ended
long?
up being fined 7 minutes to get people on scene to a boat that was capsized.
Yeah, I can figure it's a little
Nobody
different
was-
for them to
nobody
get
was injured, they
into
were
a
right
boat
there.
and everything, they just to get a fire truck out the door.
Yeah.
It's just the number of boats that we got showing up from various areas is a little bit ridiculous.
We have a lot of coastline in this town.
Yeah,
Oh my
and
gosh.
you got the Coast Guard, you got the surrounding towns.
When the
And-
weather goes
and-
bad,
I'm
people
up to
listen to it
date.
like they listen to the police monitor. They're ready to go.
We got stalled. Dave?
Your vote,
This is on 12 and 13
and 14,
and 14. Yes.
Bernie?
yes.
Myself, yes. Stuart?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
700. Article 15, to modify the quorum requirement on
I move to
Wareham
recommend.
housing.
Which one was this?
This is the quorum for the Affordable Housing
Affordable Housing Trust.
Trust.
I'll second that.
Tom?
Yes.
Pleasure. Jody?
Yes.
Yes.
Dave? Bernie?
Yes.
Myself? Yes.
Yes.
Stuart? Matt?
Yes.
Okay. 700.
Now, 16 and 17, we heard this evening. Typically, we wait a week. Would you prefer to do that, or you want to go forward and vote? On just 16 and 17.
You want to give Dom a chance to weigh in on it?
Who?
Dom? Dominic?
If you feel like, sure, that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that concerns me a little bit about this thing we are adding back in, if these committees could present an article, is I'm not sure what it has to do with us. What's financial about that?
We
Other
don't-
than warning the town.
The article could be financial that they're bringing forward.
Right, and so it seems to me that the only thing that should concern us is warning the town that we could have a bad situation if, you know, one of these committees or boards decides to put something in that has a big financial issue and it goes into the town meeting.
Now,
But other than that, I'm not sure why we would say anything.
well, it's a possibility, because it's a citizen petition. We do not necessarily have to make any recommendation at all and just let it go before the town meeting without it.
I mean, you could make a motion, and I'm not saying you have to refer to town meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be it.
That would be the motion.
Well,
You know, whatever the article number is, I kinda lost track of what numbers you're changing around here. But change the article to refer to town meeting, and we will vote.
I just think we have to be a
Maybe
little
they-
bit careful about weighing in on things that are sort of political issues that really don't have a
Well,
function to play.
this one has a problem in itself, just from the very beginning, because the first line is to see if the town will vote that articles for the spring or fall town meeting submitted to the Board of Selectmen, yada, 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 is to see if. It's not a motion, it's a resolution. They're asking for a resolution.
Which is exactly the problem with citizen votes, petitions.
Yeah, we'd have to ask Peter if it was intent to make a resolution versus an article. Now, the question itself, I think it was his intent to have it as a particular article versus a resolution, but as is outlined, there is no expert advice that they can call upon to take the phraseology, the first two words,
Well,
can sink the whole thing.
I think in any of the discussion, that was the most important thing, is that apparently all these things go before town council, as opposed to the citizen petitions.
Right, the petition, they never see town council. And that's unfortunate, but by law, none of us on any committee can consult with these people knowingly. I mean, obviously, they give you a call, you meet them in a coffee shop.
Yeah,
You try to, on that kind of a basis, that's who we are, but they cannot officially consult any of us.
But the town council can make a comment at the town meeting.
Well, my
Yes,
experience
yes.
is what happens is 90% of these things, when we get to the town meeting, they either get withdrawn or postponed because they realize there's all kinds of legal issues with them, and then gets
Mhm.
worked out.
And that's unfortunate, because somebody has put a lot of work into something up to that point.
Well, it's also unfortunate because you have all this debate about something we're not even gonna vote on.
Well, I can tell you the genesis of this one is that the CPC wanted to do X, and the select board wouldn't accept it.
Yeah. When that happened, I looked it up and see how the legislation for CPC is written. And it says once they make a decision, the only other body they have to go before is town meeting, because that's the only legislative body in the town of Wareham. And it's very specific. But then again, you have with the 2019, what Titlebaum did, and town meeting changed it, so it had to go through the selectmen. They
Select
have the
board, yeah.
total control over the warrant, with the exception of a citizen petition. So I'll postpone asking you till next week. So you may in total want to refer all the citizen petitions. So wait till we've heard them all, and you can make a broad motion if you like. Now,
Can I just speak a couple on these citizens
No.
petition? But I'm gonna
I'm
anyways.
sorry,
You know,
it was only
but
kidding.
looking at it, that's why I said I'm gonna do it anyways. But, you know, looking at them, and I forget which one it is, the one removing the dirt, whatever, number that one
Yes.
is today.
Yeah.
But they mentioned Makepeace in there over and over again. I don't think you can even mention, they're supposed to be generic per se. You know, removing dirt from any company. You can't be specific. You know, I think that's something that wouldn't fly.
Well,
I'm not a lawyer,
No,
so I'm
but
not gonna pretend
It's
to be.
gonna fly.
I had an issue with that also.
No, I would say when it gets to the AG, the state looks at all these things. I mean, that's,
Yes, but I had an issue too, because consider the gravel pit that we walked around
oh, yeah.
with the notice group.
Yeah.
Are they charged? Do they pay?
That's my point, that this is specific.
Well,
We got a head nodding back there.
We have a comment back here.
They give us reports, I would like the reports validated by measurement on like a yearly basis of but they give us reports on yard and tonnage and they do pay.
But
That's
that's-
Graziano or Highland Inc.
But irrespective of that, it should be generic in its reference
Well,
as
I'm
an
not
article.
I'm not getting into that argument with you, I'm just saying that.
Hey,
No, but
Jim, you hung
get a-
around.
You get a report,
No,
but they
I don't
name,
mind.
they name a number of companies in that report that
No,
are
just
removing gravel.
Each individual company is required to pull an earth removal permit. Whether they do or don't is another story.
Yeah.
If they do, they give us a report on a quarterly basis or a monthly basis of how many yards they pulled, and they generally send us a check of a quarter, I think it's 25 cents per yard, whatever they've taken out.
In this particular issue, the location overlaps into Carver. And
Yeah.
Carver's also doing the same thing, or there's a group within Carver doing the
And
same thing.
that's fine, Carver can do, but I'm just saying, I know we have more than one gravel pit in this town, you know,
Yeah.
and, you know,
But it is,
just a single one out. That's
I have
really-
difficulty with that, because this is not supposed to refer to an individual, because anything we're doing at town meeting covers the entire town.
Correct.
And they're singling out a particular
That-
But they're
company.
using that as an example as to why it's needed.
They're pointing to that one directly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it ends after they've done the Makepeace audits.
Yeah,
That's how it's.
that's just
that's how it's-
my spin on that one, you
Yeah.
know, it's.
I mean, their intent is to pursue the greatest offender,
I
but
understand the intent, but that,
that's the intent, but
Doesn't mean it's
unfortunately, they
legal.
put it in words.
that's me.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, gentlemen,
So what would Bowen say about that? Should he clean that up?
you can't touch it.
Yeah, it's a citizen's petition, that's the whole thing going back to the,
Yeah, he can't touch it because of
But he-
that.
Okay, so he has to say something at town meeting.
Right, the only place he can speak to it.
because they can't,
If someone asks for it,
Huh?
if someone actually asks town council to
Yeah.
weigh in.
And at town meeting, there's twice in the entire year that Rich Bowen actually works for the town itself, town meeting. Those are the only two times he actually works directly for town meeting. He is town council and advises town meeting, but those are the only two times town meeting is in action. The other
So-
time he advises the
So
selectmen.
Makepeace is gonna bring it up
Yeah.
and ask for an opinion.
But, and, okay, gentlemen, who would like to write the explanations of any particular articles?
I'll do the playground in the island. Two easy ones. Before everybody spoke up. I don't know what article numbers,
I'll
10
take-
and 11.
I'll take the first four.
I'll do Tremont, 6 and 7.
You do 1 through 4, Dave?
Yes.
Jerry, you're gonna do 6 and 7?
Yeah, I can't
I'll
do
do,
5 yet.
I'll do 12, 13, and 14 also.
Yeah, just,
Now, you'll find in some of these that there's already an explanation written. It's written by the petitioner. So you're gonna be writing for the explanation for the purpose of our voting.
Yes.
Because the explanation that they've written, I've already, well, no. Marie Garrity has been an excellent assistant, and she's put together the warrant and all the usual busy stuff that we put in and all, and created some things for me. And it's really coming along much more easily. And all of this, she cut and pasted and put in. So the only thing that we need to plug into the warrant right now is our explanations. It's a nice training because now we also have Kelly. Everybody say hello to Kelly. Hello, Kelly.
Hey, Kelly.
thank you, Kelly.
And she's gonna be doing our minutes and gonna be doing her arrears. I spoke with her directly. And she was surprised that she didn't get to do ours to begin with.
So were we?
Yes, indeed. And she's fortunate enough she can do everything at home. And she pulls up the video of us. Don't get too comfortable, Jonathan. We're watching you.
I'm not the one who gets off topic constantly.
What's that supposed to mean?
Exactly what I said.
I think we're still live.
All right, so our next meeting is next week?
Next Wednesday,
Next
6:30. And I've spoken with Steve Ruiz regarding the Zoom and what the logistics and expenses he would have to incur in order to implement Zoom for all of us.
He will explain that to us next week?
I'll ask him, well, he's a separate entity. He does not have to perform. He does not work for the town. He just takes the fees we transfer to him.
But,
Now, he's contracted with the town to do everything.
You know, to save the question, when you're saying Zoom, and I know what the Zoom meeting is, because we had to go through them, are we talking a Zoom, these people doing, or hybrid?
Hybrid.
Hybrid.
The same format you see the selectmen doing.
What does the article provide? I don't know
That
what.
it does not, as I read it, we're exempt.
Right, that's how I read it too.
What does it say? That all these things should be,
They should be on a hybrid.
Article 19.
But it says Zoom.
Which is Zoom,
I
yeah.
don't know if you identify as Zoom
Yeah,
as
the actual-
everybody's sitting at home and they're on their computer.
Uh-huh.
I see, okay.
You can
That's how I
sign in.
identify Zoom.
They sign in,
Hybrid,
everyone-
you
They-
hear and people can call in.
Yeah,
and-
they're able to do a hybrid through
Zoom and in
webinar.
person.
Correct.
Right.
So it's a technology and how to utilize the technology.
Correct.
Feedback's been the biggest problem on the
Oh, yeah.
voice. So it's kind of eliminating that and then allowing more people who might, have trouble driving at night or whatever because of the vision or whatever, if they want to participate, they could. Again, I think that's only technically can go until the end of the governor's executive order, correct? Because
As
meetings
is a requirement, but
but,
the
yes.
individual municipality can choose to do it, continue on doing it.
If they approve it at that level, right? It has to come through us as a vote in a positive format, and then it would have to be approved to continue beyond that.
Yeah. Now,
There's no limitation in Article 19 as to how long it will be run.
Like, you'll have to speak with the petitioner, I'm just,
Right.
But the-
it's open-ended as far as,
It will be
it
forever.
doesn't coincidental with COVID restrictions. There's no mention of that.
it doesn't say one way or the other.
Correct. It's
So
open-ended, so it continues on, yes. But
Well,
there's
the
one
attorney-
selectman has big problems with where they live, they should move.
I'll let the attorney voice, voice on that, as far as what's legal or isn't legal and whatnot. It's a citizen petition, right?
Yeah. The only problem I have with the application is the principal, let's say Judy in this case, does not have control of bringing people in or out. I mean, it's an additional responsibility that she would need, and it might slow the meeting down. But to do so, you have Dave behind the green curtain, or Jonathan here, and we need another person back
You need a second person.
at TV, which means, right.
Some towns use their assistant town administrator or someone else who's there during the meeting in order to facilitate that, so that the chairperson who's running the meeting will just say, we'll see, you raise your hand, you hit the little button on the bottom, raise your hand, and they just say, would you please let Mr. So-and-so in? So,
If you got an administrator or someone like that, it's Matt running the thing, because it has to be a town employee. In WCTV, is not gonna let their equipment be run by someone who is unexperienced, so to speak.
well, those are things that you need to address and try to train people, and I personally believe that moving forward, it's going to be a way that governments can operate,
Well,
or to be able to operate.
Keep in mind, Jim, you're trying to control an entity you have no control over.
Huh?
You're trying to control an entity you have no control over. You have no control over WCTV, it's run by an independent board.
I'm not trying to.
And they're gonna be running let's say, excuse me, they'll be running the operation, and it's his employee, Jonathan's his employee, there's another, one of his employees that'd be WCTV, because when you're on live, that's what's happening. He has two people running your Zoom,
In the live.
right. And,
You have-
Zoom, you have the room, and then you have somebody back at the station to monitor feeds, it's 3. I have a 4-person.
So where are the two, where's the people that are running Zoom?
So if we do, so we have done school committee and selectmen, worked out the bugs with the last school committee meeting for in the selectmen meeting room for a hybrid meeting. For doing that, you have to have somebody running the meeting Zoom-wise to be able to let people in and let people out and administer it that way. Communicate with the chair to be able to get the people who are raising their hands into the meeting if the chair allows. Then you have to have somebody behind the curtain running all of the cameras, sending out all the feed, what I'm doing here today, and then somebody at the station to be able to monitor the feed that goes into them and make sure everything goes up to TV land okay. So it goes
So you're
from
hiring
2
extra
person
people.
to 3 person.
Well, I knew
it's
that-
manpower.
I knew there'd be one extra person anyhow. I don't know, when you run it, when we just do it video, do you have someone at the station or just yourself
When you
here?
just Zoom,
If you're doing
or-
it live. You're doing it live on TV,
From one of these rooms?
yeah.
From one of these rooms, we have one person here, one person at the station.
So there's two anyhow, so you need one more body.
Need 3.
No, one more body, you already have two, correct?
Right.
Yes, you usually have
3
you have
total.
2 people.
Correct.
But that's assuming you only have one meeting a night.
No, I'm not, you know.
No,
And
but
it does compound exponentially at that point if we have, because let's say
Concurrent meeting,
FinCom, Financial Committee, and then Concom's going at the same time.
they're going right now.
So let's say, so it's me and Bob running the meeting tonight. Let's say you both did hybrid. That's 2 additional employees that we have to then find because then we also have sports going on right now with school. 'Cause Christian and his interns are all running around doing all the sporting events.
That's a separate one though,
That's,
right?
that's separate, but that's also going on all at the same time.
Okay, gentlemen.
It's a good conversation to have though.
Yeah, and we'll have it another time.
Yes.
Oh, that's all right.
Okay, thank you very much for your volunteers in running, and doing the explanations. And we'll finish everything up, next Wednesday. And between then and, I think there's only Thursday available I'll try and have, because I'd like to try and do it, printed out on the printer here in the mailroom. It'll do large runs. But if we can't get it done, I'll have to go down Staples to have it done.
When you say large runs, how many are you printing?
We're gonna do, we do on average about 250.
I just didn't know if you were expecting more.
No, I gotta figure out if they got a stapler, if the system will staple it. Because I don't wanna have to do a lot other than just say, stand there and let the machine run.
Outside?
But we have the funds to be able to print it ourselves. And it's not gonna be as large as usual.
Yeah, that's true.
So do you need a motion?
I'd like a
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? We're gone. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.